Hiya, this is Joseph Olabiyi Johnson here, the writer and creator of Iwamimo, and I'm very happy to be presenting my full-fledged comic book to you via JOMAJ Comics, a subsidiary of JOMAJ Studios. Remember, every view, subscription, or donation via PayPal goes towards helping disadvantaged young people all over the world. But enough with me rambling. Sit back and enjoy Iwamimo.
Iwamimo, created and written by Joseph Olabiyi Johnson. A wall of riot-ready police officers blocked the path of hundreds of amped-up social activist demonstrators who were screaming abuse and throwing all sorts of items at the law enforcers, whose shields effortlessly blocked the incoming projectiles. Half a mile away, from inside a black police van, Inspector Adeleye Abudu, an athletically built British-Nigerian man in his late 30s, standing around 6 feet tall, confers with Sergeant Robert Williams, an Englishman of the same height with a stocky build, while they and a comms team observe what is happening through images provided by CCTV and police-deployed drones. Things are getting out of hand. We need to disperse that crowd, comments the inspector. We were told not to engage unless something extreme happens, reminds the sergeant. The inspector grabs 2 retractable batons and proceeds to leave the van. Where are you going? Asks the sergeant, following the inspector. To ensure something extreme happens, responds the inspector, without looking at the sergeant, who at this point stopped following him. The inspector casually walks through the wall of police officers and approaches the crowd of demonstrators, avoiding the projectors that came his way with subtle movements. Hello everyone, I am Inspector Adeleye. F off, interrupted one of the demonstrators. You, my friend, have just assaulted an officer, responds the inspector, then unleashing his batons and flooring the demonstrator in 2 moves. 5 other demonstrators retaliated, only to be met with advanced combat skills they were nowhere near ready for. 5 police officers behind the inspector activated their fully body armors and proceeded to engage the protesters with force, resulting to dozens of protesters being arrested while the rest of the crowd dispersed. Officer, what do you have to say to the public who feel the tactics used by the police today was brutal and over the top? Asked a young female reporter, as the inspector walked back to the van he left before the rioting ended. Brutal? Over the top? Don't be ridiculous. There were hundreds of people that were obviously a danger to others and themselves, which we the police dealt with accordingly, responds the inspector, still walking. 24 hours later, his chief superintendent, an incredibly fit 50-year-old Scottish woman, plays back the interview on a big screen mounted on the wall of her office, while she met with Inspector Adeleye in the presence of his superintendent and chief inspector. This is the last thing we need, given our recent press, says the chief superintendent, switching off the video. Be that as it may, I was doing my job, responds the inspector, seated before his superiors. Attacking unarmed citizens isn't your job, and speaking to the press isn't your job, says his boss. I think it's best you take some paid leave until things settle down, says the chief superintendent. Yes, sir, responds Inspector Adeleye. 30 minutes later, outside the Leytonstone Mechanics. Ali, how is it not only is my car not serviced, but it's also clamped? Asked Adeleye calmly, using every fiber of his being not to have a meltdown. Sorry, bruv. They're overly strict about parking here, and we've been mad busy. Tell you what, I'll pay for a ticket and do the service on the house, said the young mechanic, unwittingly defusing a nuclear bomb that was Adeleye's emotions. Adeleye's phone rings. Hiya, answers Adeleye. Hey, are you in the area right now? Asks a female voice. I am, but my car is out of commission, answers Adeleye. I'm at that Mediterranean restaurant near Leytonstone Station, says the female voice. Okay, I can be there in about 5 minutes, responds Adeleye. I'll get us a table, says the female voice. 8 minutes later, Adeleye walks into a busy Turkish restaurant and spots Melissa, who he had arranged to meet, sitting at a table by a window. They hug before taking a seat. You look tired, says Melissa. It's been one of those days. Have you ordered? Says the Adeleye. No, but the waiter will be over soon, responds Melissa. This is a bit of surprise, you've been in the area, says Adeleye. I know, I kind of wanted to speak with you in person as soon as possible, says Melissa. Okay, responds Adeleye. You see, I think we're moving too fast. I mean, it's only been 2 months and already we're officially dating, says Melissa. Adele responds with a blank look. Don't you have anything to say? Asks Melissa. Honestly, I don't have the desire or energy to deal with this foolishness, answers Adele. Foolishness, responds Melissa. Melissa, we met on a Christian dating website. You made it very clear that you don't want, in your own words, a time waster. So after 2 months of getting to know each other, I made the suggestion we should work towards making a life together, to which you agreed. We haven't had sex because as Christians we want to save that for marriage. In fact, we haven't even kissed. So please explain what part of all this is moving too fast. And what does moving at a proper speed look like to you? Elaborates Adele. It's hard to explain, responds Melissa. Go away. What? Responds Melissa. We're through. Go away. I would like to dine alone, clarifies Adele. Melissa, visibly offended, gets up and leaves the restaurant. Adele, now resigned to dining alone, goes through a menu. A young woman, dressed in a business suit, takes Melissa's seat. I'm sorry, you're at the wrong table, says Adele. You're Leia Abudu, right? Asks the young woman. Do I know you? Asks Leia. I'm Iwamimo Abudu, answers the woman. Iwamimo Abudu? Wait, you're Iwa? Wow, the last time I saw you, you were literally a baby. How did you even find me? Responds Leia. Back home in Nigeria, there's a family portrait with a 13-year-old you in it. I hear most speak about you quite a lot, which has in the past made me look you up, says Iwa. So what, you Googled me and followed me? Asks Leia. No, I've been studying and working in London for the past 7 years now. I literally recognized you as I walked past the window, explains Iwa. Now that is a serious coincidence. How old are you? Asks Leia. 25, answers Iwa. 25? Time really does fly by, says Leia. Would you like to order anything? Asks a waiter. I'll have some rice and beef stew with a pineapple juice, answers Leia. I'll have the same, says Iwa. So what are you up to these days? Asks Leia. Well, I just qualified as a solicitor today, answers Iwa. Congrats! I'm sure your dad is very proud, says Leia. Thank you, says Iwa. Do you live by yourself? Asks Leia. Flat share, answers Iwa. Wow, you really are 25, jokes Leia. They both laugh. I saw your interview today, says Iwa. The bane of my existence right now, answers Leia. You can't please everyone, especially if you're a police officer, says Iwa. Preach it, girl, says Leia. They both laugh. You're nothing like I imagined, says Iwa. How do you mean? Asks Leia. Mo always describes you as a bitter underachiever who blames everyone else for his own mistakes, clarifies Iwa. Coming from Mo, that's practically a compliment, responds Leia. What happened with you guys? Asks Iwa. Even though your brother and I are the same age, in secondary school, due to how the education system worked in Nigeria and a whole other heap of reasons, he was 2 years ahead of me. Now, us being in boarding school meant there was a hierarchy based on what year you were in. I, at the time, had the chip on my shoulder, which led to me getting into a bit of trouble with the boys that were 1 year ahead of me. Back then, I was in year 10. That involved me being surrounded by about 15 boys, about to beat the crap out of me. Mo walks into the situation, and his appearance alone causes them to back down. But instead of stepping in and rescuing me, he gives the boys permission to beat me up, explains Leia. That's messed up, says Iwa. You're the first person I've actually told the real version of this story. Until now, I've been telling everyone that he rescued me because part of me can't face the fact that the boy I was best friends with at the age of 7 grew up to view me as nothing more than a gum underneath his shoe, says Leia. I don't understand how, but before Iwa could finish her sentence, there was an explosion and the restaurant was engulfed in purple flames. Leia awoke to find himself in a hospital bed with a mild headache. Now very confused, he looks around the room and sees his clothes neatly folded on a chair beside his bed. Leia proceeds to take off his hospital gown and change into his clothes. Able to remember being at a restaurant with his cousin, he checks his phone for any news regarding the Leytonstone area and finds the restaurant he was in exploded the night before. He then proceeds to approach the front desk. "Excuse me, was a young woman by the name of Iwamimo Abidu admitted into this hospital?" asked Leia. "What's it to you?" interrupts Modupe Abidu, a tall, slim, smiley-dressed man as he approached the front desk with his wife. "Sorry?" responds Leia, not at all in the mood for his cousin's usual antics. "Iwa is my sister and has nothing to do with you," says Modupe, now standing right in Leia's face. "Listen here, asshole. I am a high-ranking police officer who was at the incident," responds Leia, not at all backing down. "Then I suggest you speak with Detective Flather, who is assigned lead on this investigation," says Modupe with a smirk on his face. Leia, successfully resisting the urge to punch his cousin in the face, continues to talk to the lady at the front desk. "Loser," says Modupe, now walking away from his cousin. Leia, hearing Modupe, turns and says, "2005, your mother, one of the nicest people I've ever known, dies. In tears, you told me that the last time she saw you, she said there was something missing in you, which made you very upset because those were the last words she said to you. Your own mother was trying to tell you that you are a sociopath, which devastated her." Modupe makes a move to attack Leia, but is stopped by his wife. "Let him come. I would relish arresting him for assault after I've kicked his ass," says Leia calmly. 3 hours later, Leia goes into his local martial arts gym to let off some steam on a heavy bag, but ends up sending the bag flying with just a few punches. "Bruv, how many times have I told you to make sure you hang up the bags properly?" yells Leia out to a gym staff member who happened to be walking by. "What are you talking about? That bag has been up for over a year now. You were wailing on it 2 days ago," causing both men to look at the 45 gym bracket that had been ripped out of the wall. 1 year later, 5 army generals along with a dozen bodyguards are led by a smartly dressed young woman into a conference room of a corporate building. As the generals take a seat and the bodyguards secure the area, a young-looking Caucasian man with long black hair dressed in a navy blue suit walks in. "Evening, gentlemen," said the man, taking a seat at the top of the conference table. "Mr. Dorman, do you have anything for us today?" asks one of the generals. "Indeed I do," responds Dorman. His female assistant then approaches a member of the general's security detail who was in the room. "Please lend me your weapon," asks the assistant. He hesitates, but one of the generals signals it's okay with a simple nod. He then hands over the gun to the assistant. Dorman then proceeds to stand, and the assistant proceeds to shoot Dorman until there were no more bullets in the gun. After the assistant stopped firing, Dorman was still standing without a scratch on him. "Gentlemen, I present a material that is as light as cloth but resistant to bullets, laser, and up to 5.2 megaton blast without so much as a slight discomfort to the person wearing it. I'm willing to make this exclusive only to the UN Army, at a price that was just sent to you all," announced Dorman, as the general stared at him with awe. An hour later, after a successful pitch, Dorman casually walks towards the exit of his office building. "Production will be complete at the end of the month," informs Dorman's assistant. "Good. Do not approve a shipment until the planned financial protocol is in play," instructs Dorman. He then leaves the building and approaches his black sports car, only for it to explode, causing him to create and move into a pocket dimension, while a figure jumps in after him. Dorman, now standing in a pocket dimension that only consists of white light, notices a person standing behind him, dressed in battle-purpose, black hooded one-piece bodysuit, with a mask, making only the eyes visible. The person had a petite build and stood 5 feet 4 inches tall. "Who are you?" asked Dorman. The stranger, saying nothing, takes off their mask and reveals Iwa's face. She then begins a relentless assault on Dorman, who at first didn't expect much, quickly realizes that although he was superior in strength, Iwa was a lot more quicker and technical than him, which meant he was getting hit over and over again. In fact, for every significant attack he executed, which primarily were shoulder tackles or aggressive throws, Iwa would immediately bounce back or counter with a minimum of 15 connecting blows from punches, knees, kicks, elbows, trips, and slick takedowns. Even though Iwa's attacks did hurt Dorman, they lacked the firepower to put him down. Likewise, Dorman was far superior in strength but was unable to tame Iwa's attacks, which were relayed with flawless grace and precision. So much so, Dorman collapsed the portal which covered his escape, while dropping Iwa near the remains of his car that was now surrounded by police, ambulance, and fire service personnel. Iwa gets to her feet and casually walks away from the scene. 24 hours later, Kamal Ahmed, a slim, average-height 27-year-old, sat in his office feeling very happy with himself because of the state of his bank balance that was displayed in front of him via his laptop. For in the last year, he went from average wage to multi-millionaire. His phone notifies him of a text and he reads a message which says, "I know what you've done." Kamal, slightly concerned, decides to ignore the text. Another text is sent to his phone and it reads, "I know how you've done it." Kamal, seeing this, now ponders on what action, if any, should be taken. Another text is sent and it reads, "You have a lot of cool stuff here." Pictures taken from inside his vault, no normal person could gain access to, was then sent. Kamal reacts by teleporting to the entrance of his vault, only to find its doors being ripped off its hinges. He walks inside the vault, which is filled with priceless jewels, paintings and artifacts, and finds Iwa casually sitting on the couch. "Who are you?" asks Kamal, now very wary. The real question is, are you going to listen to what I have to say? Or are you going to leave me here with a good portion of your wealth? 24 hours later, in Las Vegas, two middleweight MMA fighters stand across the cage from each other. "This is a fight for the ages," says commentator 1. "Yes, it is. We have the undefeated champion from Japan in Botan with a 95% finish rate and a beast in all facets of martial arts against Leia, former English police officer who seemingly came out of nowhere with a 15-0 record with all his wins by way of knockout," says commentator 2. Referee brings both men to the center of the cage and goes over the rules. "Ooh, Bolton refuses to touch gloves, making it very clear he means business," says commentator 2. "Round 1, here we go," says commentator 1. "Wow, there's absolutely no feeling out process as far as Bolton is concerned," says commentator 2. "No, there isn't. He's throwing both heat with his hands, legs, elbows and knees. Ooh, and now he's going for a takedown, but Leia defends and moves to the center of the cage," says commentator 1. "Even though Leia seems to be only defending, he does seem comfortable. Be that as it may, in the eyes of the judges he is losing the fight," says commentator 1. "Oh!" scream both commentators. He's out! He's out!" screams commentator 1. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a new middleweight champion and his name is Leia Bang Abudu," says commentator 2. "If we look at the replay, you can see as Bolton went to the flying knee, Bang executed a 360-degree aerial kick that connected perfectly on Bolton's chin," explains commentator 1. 2 hours later, Leia is finally left alone to clean up. "I can't believe I'm standing in the locker of Leia Bang Abudu," says Kamal as Leia walks out of the shower. "Iwa?" reacted Leia, noticing his cousin standing beside the starstruck stranger. After another day passes, Michael Roberts, an unassuming-looking English electrician who is slim and average height, closes the front door of his client's home, only to be face-to-face with Iwa, Leia and Kamal. "Michael Roberts?" asks Iwa. "Who's asking?" responds Michael. At which point Kamal puts his hand on the electrician's shoulder and teleports with him to his vault. On arrival, Michael shoots out a bolt of electricity at Kamal, who teleports out of the way and reappears with Iwa and Leia. "You don't want to mess with me," declares Michael, now engulfing his whole body with electricity, ready to do battle. "Easy, Tiger, we just want to talk," says Iwa in an effort to calm Michael down, who was still in battle mode. "What do you want from me?" says Michael, still in fight mode. But before anyone could react, Iwa slaps Michael and hits 7 of his pressure points, which turned off his abilities. "What just happened?" asked Michael. "I temporarily stripped you of your powers so we can have a civil conversation," answers Iwa. "About what?" asks Michael. "About how we're the only ones who can stop the world as we know it ending prematurely," answers Iwa. A 40-second silence follows, then Iwa continues. "Everything in the Bible is true, and I mean everything. There are only 2 absolutes, good and evil. A year ago you developed the ability to manipulate electricity," says Iwa. "How do you know this?" asks Michael. "Because a year ago, a Nephilim that calls itself Dolmen came to our world via a prototype device created by its kind, which gave it a one-way journey. Its arrogance made it do the equivalent of kicking the door between our worlds wide open instead of slipping through. This act is what caused the explosion that endowed people in the area with abilities, which includes us, explains Iwa. Wait, there are more like us? Asks Kamal. Yes, there are more like us, but that's not our problem right now, responds Iwa. What is our problem? Asks Michael. There is a top secret UN defense system around the Earth which prevents meteors that are a threat directly hitting the planet. This system is why the Nephilim Armada just outside our solar system can't approach the Earth without being destroyed, explains Iwa. I don't remember the Bible talking about aliens, comments Michael. Genesis chapter 6 highlights when a number of angels left the divine nature to procreate with human women, which spawned generations of angel-human hybrid known as Nephilim. There are as many types of Nephilim as there are insects. Giants, dinosaurs, goblins, fairies, mythical beings called gods, demigods, titans, and the list goes on. Majority of them left the planet during the flood in Noah's day, while most of the rest were wiped out by man and natural disasters, explains Iwa. This is crazy, says Michael. The arrogance of Dorman and its kind meant them thinking Dorman could just burst onto our planet and turn off the planet's defense, regardless of where Dorman ended up. Dorman quickly realized that unlike in his realm, as well as conditions which are mimicked on his ship, he was subjected to things like fatigue and limited vulnerability. So after taking out a few police officers, Dorman took the form of a man and laid low. And in a year took full control of London's criminal underground and built itself a multi-billion-pound corporation, informs Iwa. Wait, Dorman, the CEO of Inc. is an alien? Asks Mylan. Nephilim, and yes. Just days ago, he got a huge contract with the UN, which means he will be granted with an audience with the UN president. After that, all he needs is one handshake to get all the information he needs. How do you know all this? Asks Michael, trying to process everything. You have the ability to manipulate electricity. Kamal here can create pocket dimension, which allows him to teleport. Leia can effortlessly lift in excess of 4,000 pounds, and I have instant profiling, says Iwa. Instant profiling, says Leia? If I focus on anything, be it a person, place, or thing, I will instantly comprehend and master everything about it, says Iwa. You're a human search engine, jokes Kamal. After being discharged, I returned to my law career, and I just started picking up things quickly. My arrogance put it down to all the prior years I had spent in the library, even when professionals with decades of experience couldn't keep up. Then one afternoon, I went into a music store and played the violin so well that everyone around me stood in awe of my skills, explains Iwa. You can play the violin. Big deal, comments Michael. That was the first time I ever picked up a violin, let alone play it. Plus, I understood it in a way that wasn't possible. I calmly put down the violin and went into the bathroom to quietly freak out, which led to me staring at myself in the mirror. As a result, I understood my physiology down to a molecular level, which includes the origins of my ability. I went back to the site of the explosion, and after just 5 minutes of looking around, I knew everything connected to that site. Ask Dorman everything, responds Iwa. He said Dorman can get the information he needs with just a handshake, highlights Leia. Dorman has a variation of all our abilities, as well as others. He's as strong and as durable as Leia, can manipulate energy the way Michael manipulates electricity, he can create pocket dimensions like Kamal, and he can instant profile like me. But in his case, he needs to make physical contact skin to skin or skin to surface with whoever or whatever he's profiling, explains Iwa. How come he has to make contact? Asks Kamal. Dorman has in the region of 9 abilities that the normal man can just about comprehend, and I just have one of those abilities. Mine is more heightened in a way a blind person's hearing could become. This is why every skill I attain is permanent, while his are temporary and limited to what he desires to know, explains Iwa. 24 hours later, on a deserted tropical field, in an unexplored region of the Earth, Leia, Kamal, and Michael did battle, dressed in battle gear similar to what Iwa wore, made out of the same material Dorman sold to the UN army. Kamal appears in front of Leia and punches him, but Leia doesn't feel a thing and sends him flying with a shove. Michael hits him from behind with a huge bolt of electricity. Leia in turns runs through and hits him to the ground with his shoulder. How is it that we have the strength of 3 men, yet he's swatting us away like flies? Asked Kamal in frustration. The aim is to frustrate him, not knock him down. Leia, like Dorman, is ridiculously durable, and to the untrained eye seems invulnerable. He, like Dorman, isn't used to taking on a formidable opponent, which is why they are susceptible to fatigue if you can take them past the 3-minute mark, replies Iwa, unable to hide the amusement she got from what she had just witnessed. 3 minutes? Are you forgetting I'm a professional athlete? Highlights Leia. Please, those so-called bouts are the equivalent of a grown man messing around with a toddler, responds Iwa. True that. I kind of lost respect for your career after finding out that you are essentially Superman, chimes in Kamal. Too bad Domin isn't here to prove your theory, comments Leia, still unconvinced. No, but I am, points out Iwa. Wait, in your own assessment you said that you're the weakest here, says Michael, not wanting things to get out of hand. In terms of physical strength, yes, I am the weakest, because the nature of all your powers means physiologically you are much stronger and durable than the average man, while I am simply at the peak of human fitness. However, combat-wise, I'm the most effective by far, explains Iwa. Talk is cheap, says Leia, looking at his baby cousin. You're right. If you remain standing in 15 seconds, I will rethink my assessment, challenges Iwa. Okay, obliges Leia. Iwa relentlessly attacks with a combination of punches and kicks that were graceful and to a normal person bone-shattering. Leia evades, blocks and throws a punch designed to throw her to the ground without any major damage, only to find himself on the floor. 7 seconds, yells out Kamal. Shall we try again? Asks Iwa. Sure, answers Leia. This time Leia attacks at about 15%, with Iwa effortlessly redirecting his attacks with Tai Chi-like movements before tripping him to the ground. 4 seconds, yells out Kamal. Shall we try again? Asks Iwa. I think you've made your point, says Leia, humbly getting to his feet. Okay boys, go again. Remember, the aim is to frustrate, knock down, says Iwa, retaking her seat as the team resumes their sparring match. A week later, after being attacked, Dorman sits in his office, pondering on what his next move should be. He then decisively gets up and teleports to the UN headquarters in New York City, early in the afternoon, and covertly joins a group about to tour the building. Do you think we'll see the president? Asks a voice from beside him. Dorman turns to see his attacker, causing him to casually walk to a private area, so as not to draw attention to himself, only to bump into Kamal, who teleports him to his team's training ground on impact. As soon as Dorman is teleported, he is hit with a ridiculous amount of electricity, courtesy of Michael, which at first brings him to his knees before he is able to reverse the attack as a kinetic blast at Michael, who is teleported out of the way before Dorman's blast is able to hit him. Before Dorman could get his bearings, he found himself on the receiving end of Iwa's devastating punches and kicks that staggered him before he is able to send her flying with a punch. Kamal then teleports Dorman into mid-air, where Dorman levitates instead of falling as Kamal intended. Dorman begins to rain down fireballs, causing Kamal to teleport him and Michael to a panic room only he can access, where he is able to view the battlefield via a sophisticated surveillance system linked to drones and cameras. Meanwhile, Iwa's acrobatic skills were on full display, before throwing a high-tech and very portable flash grenade at Dorman, whose incredible senses made him 10 times susceptible to it, causing him to hit the ground hard, only to be greeted by another voltage blast from Michael, who Kamal had teleported back onto the battlefield. This time, Dorman yelled out in pain before unleashing a kinetic shock wave, which sent Michael and Iwa flying before jumping into a pocket dimension, which was diverted by Kamal to his apartment, where casually sat on Kamal's desk waiting for him. You don't look too good, says Leia, now approaching the visible hurt foe. Dorman responds by firing a gigantic blast at Leia, which destroys everything in its path, everything except Leia. Dorman, still a threat to any military army, attacks Leia, but in his weakened state was unable to present Leia with anything the police officer's super strength and combat experience hadn't seen or wasn't prepared for. At one point, Leia grabs Dorman by the neck and slams him to the ground, before proceeding to punch him in the face continuously. The Nephilim becomes purple energy and dissolves away, causing Leia to get to his feet as his comrades teleport behind him. I'm not sure my insurance will cover this, says Kamal as he observes the fact that half his home was disintegrated by Dorman's blast. Is he dead? Asks Leia. No, he's just lost his tether to this dimension, answers Iwa. Now what? Asks Michael. Now, they will look for other ways to destroy mankind and take this planet, says Iwa. What can we do? Asks Leia. I suggest we start by looking for others like us, says Iwa.
Hey, I really hope you enjoyed Iwamimo. It was a pleasure making and putting together. Please leave your comments below. Good or bad, I'm going to cherish all of them. Remember, also check out the link that takes you to the playlist of other series I've done in the past on the JOMAJ comic parent company, JOMAJ Studios. If you just click on the link, it will take you to a page where you have all the various playlists. That includes series such as Slay, Like Water, and so forth and so forth. So yeah, hope to see you soon, and I'll be back, God willing, with another comic book. Bye.
Iwamimo out now on JOMAJ Comics YouTube page, which can be found by going to jomajstudios.com and clicking on JOMAJ Comics. Remember, every view, subscription, or contribution via PayPal goes towards helping disadvantaged young people all over the world. Details of our relevant links can be found in the description box. Iwamimo is also available in paperback. To get your copy, email jomajstudios@gmail.com. To ensure your support isn't intercepted by scammers, channel it through jomajstudios.com.